Cyril here. Consider this video a remake or a follow-up of a video I made a year ago aptly titled, Why is it so hard to get into Marvel and DC? A few things have changed since then. For starters, the volume of books I've been reading from Marvel and DC decreased dramatically. I'm just not interested in Marvel and DC as I once was. Some of it's due to developments, which I absolutely despise from both companies. Some of it is due to burnout. It's not like I hate superheroes or comics in general. I've been engaging with My Hero Academia quite regularly despite my distaste for certain creative choices. I also bought the Demon Slayer manga, all of it. I rewatched Assassination Classroom, and I've been keeping up with Toilet Bound Hanako-kun, so it's not like I'm not reading comics. And by now you've probably noticed that all the things I kept up with are manga or anime adaptations of manga. That's because for a hobby, manga gives me much more satisfaction for my money. For 192 pages, I only need to pay around $10. Meanwhile, for 30 pages of entertainment, I need to pay around $5. This is of course because of production cost. Glossy paper and ink aren't exactly cheap. But I've spent more money on more expensive hobbies before. The problem with comics is that the barriers to entry are quite high for new readers and the retention value can be very low. I used the example of Power Pack in my original video, and it still holds up to demonstrate this level. They're a relatively obscure team, which you probably haven't heard of until now. This is all you need to know with what's going on with the Power Pack. So you have Power Pack Volume 1, Fantastic Four, Cloak and Dagger, New Mutants, Power Pack Holiday Special, Volume 2, for Runaways, except to follow one character, The Loners, which is to follow that same character, Avengers Academy, Fantastic Four again, FF, which is not to be confused with Fantastic Four, Power Pack Legacy Issue, Runaways, Future Foundation, and then Outlawed. Imagine if this was Spider-Man, this screen would be completely white with text. If I wanted to start getting into My Hero Academia, which only started in 2014 mind you, I could just start at chapter 1, or watch the anime, that works too. Since this is an interconnected universe, events in other books bleed into the main book. So you're a new comic reader and have only started to read one comic book about a single character or team. Suddenly, the cast gets shaken up because, powers that be decided to louse it up for another book and thus screws over your book since you're reading it and you're annoyed. It's frustrating. And this keeps happening. There's also been the volume of books being published on top of being a shared universe. Remember when I went on and criticized the MCU, well, everyone criticized the MCU, for putting out so much content? Well, this is where that problem originates. If you're a casual Marvel movie watcher and didn't watch WandaVision or Miss Marvel just because you only see the movies, you're going to go, who is this Miss Marvel character? Why is Monica such a big deal? When did she get light powers? Hard to appeal to casual readers like that. I say this branching diagram from the MCU is probably the best representation of the problem with superhero comics, the constant sub-franchises. You want to read X-Men? Well, let's have it balloon. Let's have X-23, X-Men Blue, X-Men Gold, X-Force, X-Factor, Marauders, and a million other books which are all interconnected and you don't know how, and having them go on like this from week to week, you miss a week because, well, you're out of town? Well, good luck. This is probably going to affect something down the line that's going to annoy you later where you have to go back and read this. While I'm on the let's criticize the shared universe as a concept train, I mentioned a problem with the shared universe when it comes to a supporting cast in my Monsters Unleashed retrospective. Kai Kawade never gets a unique and dedicated rogues gallery because he kept borrowing from the other franchises that exist, which hurt the book in forming its own identity. Then there's also what I like to call the rule of cycles. There comes a point where the characters are reset to the same status quo so much where they just become hollow caricatures of what they once were. An excellent example would be Spider-Man, who has become a caricature of a perpetually broke loser who doesn't mature. Frankly, this is why I see superhero comics are losing out to manga. It's just more emotionally satisfying to see things come to an end, see things actually change, and at least have one team's vision, rather than this perpetual tug of war that is between the writers, the editorial, and this leads to a high barrier of entry, low retention rates, and just general dissatisfaction and burnout from fans. But those are just my thoughts. Please consider liking, subscribing, and tipping the channel on Ko-fi. This is Cyril signing off.